Hi, welcome back to my video tutorials. I'm Jim Rivers and we continue with the work I've been showing you on this track. In this video we're going to look at the bass part that I'm going to develop for this track. So we've kind of covered a few things already. We've got some beats, we've got some nice pads and stuff that were developed in Ableton and then brought into Logic to kind of use the bits in there. So what I've done is I've bounced some of those down as audio. I've now got them in Logic all in one place. I like to do all my arranging really in Logic. You can arrange in Logic and Ableton at the same time, but for my preference, eventually I like to bring everything over to Logic. So what I've done is I have put my pads, the bright pad and the pad with the Mad Effects on it, into Logic. Now you can see I've got two versions of each of them here. It's a little trick that I use on a lot of stuff. So rather than just putting it into one stereo channel, what I like to do, I haven't actually done it properly yet, what I like to do is double them up and spread them. So you can always put a spreader on, which I have done on a couple of them I think actually. But what I like to do is I like to put one in a channel, then I just copy the channel, the exact channel down, which is easily done by clicking this tab here. That just creates a carbon copy, as it says there, new track with duplicate setting. So all the plugins settings are the same, the volume and all that, the buses, everything is mapped to the same point. So I make a duplicate channel. Then on each channel, as you can see, I've done an extreme pan to the right and then an extreme pan to the left. The final little touch to do is, you can do this with like a chorus or a delay, but what I do, I like to do this manually. I then grab one of them, and in this box here, the number that I'm looking at is the one that's changing there, 9, 13, 17. As it goes up, I'm going to put it to about 30-ish, like that, okay? I haven't really got any automation in there yet, but I'll just do that. So when I zoom out, it doesn't look like there's a massive amount of difference, but if I solo these now, there's a different kind of width. So what I've done is I've basically doubled up the sound and then I've extreme panned them left and right, and then I've nudged one of them so that it plays slightly behind the other one, thus giving a much wider effect. Now I didn't give you the comparison there, which might have been helpful, so I'll do that on this one here. If I go to the other pad, if I just play solo one of these, put this back to the middle. There's our normal pad. So what I'm doing is I'm going to extreme pan that to the right. My other one's already extreme pan to the left. And then I'm going to apply the same principle, zoom in nice and tight. And again, we're looking at that figure there, around about 30, something like that. And then now when I solo these two together, there should be a definite width that wasn't there before. So you can hear how it kind of focuses on one side at the start of the set of the loop that I did, and then it finishes on the other side. So it's just all about space, dynamic, width, things like that. It's something that I like to do. There's loads of different ways you can do it, but that's a little thing that I do all the time. I've also got a spreader on there as well, which kind of is possibly a little bit irrelevant, and that might have been part of the process when I was just playing around with the ideas, because I've effectively put my own spread on it. So I'm going to leave the spreader off. I've still got the echo I had, and I've got the filter there, but I've got that off for now because I don't want it on while I'm looking at the bass. So the kind of the rough vibe that we have. All quite epic and big sounding, so that's all good in the hood. I will probably just readjust the automation on these a little bit, just so we can hear a little bit clearer what's going on. That'll do for now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to solo the pad parts, and I'll leave some kind of rhythmic thing in. Let's just leave the low cut kick. So I've got my rhythm and I've got the melody part, which obviously is fundamental in making the bass. Now when I make basses and stuff, especially when I have a melodic part there already, the task is easier, if you like, because you've got to work within a certain key and certain notes and chords. So quite often with something like this, the sort of bass line that I know I want to go for with this is going to be something. It's not going to be too stabby, although I might do a stabby version at some point in the track, but I want it to be kind of smooth and rolly at the moment to fit with this whole kind of like deep, warm sound. So usually what I'll do is I'll just get up a plug-in, for example, the EXS-24, which I use a lot. The default setting in that is just a sine wave. Let me show it. A nice big sine, and obviously that's just going to fit underneath this nicely. All I want to do is find some deep, warm notes. So let's have a little play. Okay, now obviously I know the bass line because I've written it already, but just playing around like that is always the easiest way to find the notes. Now if you're not massively confident on playing a keyboard, or you struggle to kind of put different chords and notes together, well, that's the brilliant thing about writing music on a computer. You can do it in stages. If you really have to, you can do one note at a time and go like that. But I like to play things around a little bit. So once I've got an idea, I'll play it through a few times and then I'll record it in. So something like this. That works for me. That's the pattern that I like. As they say on lots of art programs, here's one I prepared earlier. Haha, cheating, but never mind. It saves time on a video. Here we go. Okay, that's all sounding lovely, but what I want to do is I want to make that sound much more interesting than just a sub. Now, I probably will have some kind of sub thing in there, maybe, depending on what bass sound I go for. But the sound that I originally used in this track was this one. Let's have a look and see how it's sounding. A little bit more texture and growl to that, a little bit of movement modulation on the sound and stuff, just making it that little bit more interesting. Now the plugin that I use for that is called Strobe. Now I can't say enough about how good this plugin and the other two that come with this, Strobe, Amber and Cypher, they're part of the Decam Synth Squad made by FXpansion. It's about 150 quid and you get these three plugins, and you also get a host plugin called Fuser, which you can apply. You can put all three plugins in together and make monster sounds. Now I've had these for, I don't know, a couple of years maybe, and they are absolutely brilliant. I use them in pretty much everything I write, and I've kind of got to know, especially this plugin, Strobe, quite well. So it's a go-to plugin for me. It's full of great sounds. It's got a real analogy feel to it as well. And it's set up like most plugins really. It's got envelopes, it's got filters, it's got some sub-oscillator stuff here, as well as a more regular oscillator, LFO. It's also got an arpeggiator which you can put into everything like this. So any sound that's in there you can make into an ARP, which is a really powerful tool. I use ARPs a lot and stuff. But for this one, I just want that kind of more growly sound. It's a bit Mark Romboy, a bit systematic, Stephen Bodzin, that kind of vibe was the kind of thing I was looking at. So that is sounding really, really nice. Now you will notice as well there's a compression that's not being used here. The reason for that is I use some sidechain compression on this. Now I don't know how much people know about sidechain compression, but it's something that in dance music we use a lot. Now you can go for the extreme version, which is the Eric Prydz Call on Me sucking Hoover sound that obviously he made very famous, but I use it in that same way but less extreme. So this is where the ghost kick comes into play. So by soloing that, let me just show you. This ghost kick at the moment is going to bus 1 and there is no output on the bus. So what I want basically is to be able to send things through that bus, get the effect of the kick drum, the pumping, but I don't want to hear the kick drum sound, otherwise I'm playing 2 kick drums. So I've already set that up. Then on the actual sound, I've got my compression. In the sidechain section here, I choose bus 1, and then I go to a setting that I know works. Now I happen to have one saved that I use that works. In fact, I'm going to change it to that one. Now this is quite an extreme setting, and whenever you apply a big sidechain compression to a sound, it always makes it much louder, so you have to watch the volume or you'll blow your head off. Make sure that the ghost kick is playing, otherwise you won't get the effect. So let's have a listen. Now if you don't want as much of the kind of the throb and the suck, then play around with the settings. There's all sorts of things. The release, the attack, they all make difference to the sound. So just play around with it until it sits. So I'll do that now. Okay, that's not too bad. So let's have a listen to how that's sounding with everything else playing. Okay, I think that's got a really nice feel to it. You know, the main elements of what I would now think make up a track are there. There's some really nice solid beats, there's some really nice pads, and then I've now got this really warm bass. So in the next video, we'll look at how we develop from that. So it's been me, Jim Rivers, for Sonic Academy, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.